Welcome to the Urban GardenHER YouTube channel. My name is Alexis and I am the Urban GardenHER. You guys, it's October, late October to be exact, and I am cold. Like, y'all see me with this jacket? I got layers on right now because it is cold outside. It is morning, so of course it's going to be cool in the morning, but I'm like really cold. But just because I'm cold, things from the summer are dying doesn't mean that the garden is not producing. As you can see here, here's the current state of my garden, and I guess you want to call it early fall, where we have a lot of our brassicas that are producing. They've gotten larger in size. Some are ready to harvest, some I'm still waiting on. We have yet to reach our first frost, so cross our fingers that everything, does well with that. But, things are doing pretty well right now, fairly well. I'm pleased with the current state of my garden, at least for the fall garden as it goes. But today I'm just going to walk you through some of the things that are currently growing in the garden this fall, along with some of the things I'm going to be pulling out from the summer that's hindering the growth of my fall cool weather loving vegetables, and then also some things that you should consider to plant in your fall garden. It is zone 7, we're zone 7B to be exact, and there's still some things that you can plant right now so that you can harvest it for next year. And I'll go over that as well. So let's get started with the tour. So first up is Grow Back Alley, which has a lot of different kinds of greens that are growing here. And I'm pretty pleased, you guys. Like, I'm actually further along at this point than I have ever been in the past with growing my greens. So just as you can see here, I have some Georgia Southern collard greens, which have like, the leaves are fairly big. This is actually when your leaves get to when your leaves are about like this size, this is about 8 inches and more, they're ready to harvest. So I could essentially harvest my collard greens today, but I want them to get a little bigger. So we'll see. I might harvest some and do the cut and come again method, which you can also do. You could treat your greens like you treat your lettuce. And then also, I have a couple of these greens. These, as you can see, were getting eaten up by the bugs, but we got them under control by using some BT spray on them. Just one, we did one round of it, and it seemed to have done a good job of getting rid of them. Another one in the front, another collard green, which was smaller, was getting chewed up, but it actually bounced back to life. But in the back, you can see these beautiful, beautiful giant red mustards, you guys. This is my first year growing them. And I'm going to be honest, I've never tried them before, but I am super excited to be able to learn how they taste. I've heard they taste a little spicy. So I'm thinking like, we might be able to make some like mixed greens with them, mix our collards with our mustard. So excited about that. And back here is just a lonely cauliflower plant. I think it's cauliflower or maybe it's a broccoli. I'm not sure yet. But it didn't fit in my other containers in the front of Grow Back Alley, so it's tucked away over here. But you also see tucked in this bed here is some celery, which I have along the borders, and some cilantro. What else do we have here? I think I have some dill back over in the corner, oregano, all these different things to help deter the pests, which they are not 100% foolproof. They've done a little bit, helping with that, but they're still, you know, bugs are still coming in, eating. Not right now, but, they were before. But yeah, I have all these different things. Oh, yeah. And I still have a bean plant that's still producing. Well, no, it's not flowering or anything, but you can see I still have a bean that's there. I just left the plant here so that it could add some nutrients back to the soil, some nitrogen to help fix the soil for these nitrogen loving plants here, which seem to enjoy the bean plant there as well. But this is pretty much my raised bed. I'm like really pleased by it. The front, I have these containers which I'm growing some more oregano, but also these are broccoli, 2 broccoli plants per container, along with some green onions that are also tucked in there as well. And then I also have some cauliflower. And again, cauliflower is a lot further along in the process of growing this time of year than I've ever had before. So hopefully I get to harvest it. I'm really hoping that the broccoli and the cauliflower will form crowns before the frost, or at least before a really hard freeze, because I don't know if they're going to survive or taste well, or I don't know. We'll see. But I'll give you all an update on that later. But this is the broccoli as well, and some more green onions. But again, you guys, everything is doing fairly well with this cool weather. Right now, I think we're in the 40s in the morning time. The daytime temperatures are more like 60s and 70s, so it's like a cross between fall and summer in daytime. So you see here this sad looking pepper plant, which I wanted to overwinter, and I don't know if I still have a chance. Maybe I do. A good indicator is to look at the stem here to see if it's still green. And I might be able to still save it and overwinter it. But this is a California Wonder bell pepper plant that's dying, along with a poblano pepper plant, which is fine because I brought another one indoors. And then some random lettuce that I have in here, the sage, which is growing in there as well. But again, I'm going to pull these things up, probably overwinter this pepper, maybe get rid of this one. I don't know. We'll see. My marigolds are actually doing well. Marigolds actually do very well in the fall, you guys. Like that's a flower. If you're looking for something that grows well in, the fall, marigolds are definitely a flower that does really well. This here chamomile, which I'm so excited for because I get to make some chamomile tea. This is the first year I'm growing it. I'm hoping I get some flowers from it so that I can make the tea from the chamomile flowers. But chamomile actually enjoys cooler temperatures. And some people might not know as well that snapdragon flowers are actually perennial in some zones, and they're actually perennial in my zone. So you see, they're not dead yet. They're not blooming, they're not flowering, but they're still here, and they'll probably be here next spring as well. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. A random dahlia, y'all. I don't know. Like I planted this snapdragon in this container that had dahlias in here, and I guess the dahlias uh bulb or whatever, I guess it's still in here. Tuber still in here. So I don't know. We'll let them do whatever they want to do. And down here I have some another California Wonder bell pepper. Again, I'll probably bring this indoors so that it can overwinter because I want this to grow again next year. Basil. See, basil's doing okay. It's not really, the frost will probably kill it, but it's doing fairly well right now. I haven't really did an update on this apple tree, but it is sad looking right now, not because of the weather, but because the soil is so dry. And I know this too because all the other plants in here are sad looking, like the snapdragons, which you saw in my other container that the snapdragons are doing well. These are a little dry, so I'm probably going to water this today. Hopefully I can revive it and bring it back to life as well. So I recently harvested some ginger from this raised bed, and then in place of it, I put some of my brassicas that were in pots into this bed, and they seem to be fairly happy. I have this Swiss chard, rainbow Swiss chard. I don't even remember if this is broccoli. I'm thinking this might be broccoli. Here, some dill, let's see, dwarf, blue curled dwarf kale, some red cabbage, and you can also see that I have it mulched as well so that we can suppress weeds and keep the soil warm for the plants as well. This bed has Morris heading cabbage along with some other plants that I retransplanted from containers like this broccoli. You see a broccoli plant right there. This is actually a purple top turnip that I transplanted after harvesting one round of the top of it. I believe that it was a smaller bulb, a smaller rooted, I guess, bulb. I don't know what you want to call the turnip. So I just put it back into the ground. It still had roots and it's still doing fine, growing again. Some more Morris heading cabbage. I'm sorry, Morris heading collards and some purple top turnips along with some more collards in the back. So you guys, I actually had okra that was growing in this bed like about a couple weeks ago, and I just decided to make a decision to pull it up so that I could just allow these plants to thrive here. Like, you have to make those tough decisions. What's the reward return on the space investment, and that was the decision I had to make, was to get rid of the towering okra plants that were here and over these different um, covering over these different collards. And it seems to be a great decision because everything is doing very well and is growing a lot larger in size than they were before. So this raised bed has a lot going on, and it did really well towards the end of the season. I wish that it would have did a lot better in production of tomatoes earlier in the season in the summer, but we had the extreme heat, so that's why I still have it up here. But I decided to keep it this long because of how it struggled in the beginning of the season, and I wanted it to produce, and it did end up producing a lot of tomatoes. But you can see that it's still thriving. It's still here. It's producing, has a lot of leaf growth. You might even see some flowers as well that's coming in. But the thing is, you guys, these are not going to produce any fruits because it's not hot enough. This is not tomato season. And it's just not going to benefit your raised bed if you have other things that are growing here that would do better with the temperatures and the sunlight. But this tomato plant is shading out the sunlight. So I'm left with a hard decision, which I ended up deciding to do, which is to pull up these two tomato plants that are doing really well, producing, some leaves and have some tomatoes that are still on here, but it's time for it to go. So I'm going to go ahead and probably pull this up today because I have some cabbage that's down here, and the reason why I'm going to pull up this tomato is because I have cabbage that's growing down here, which I had planted it about a little over a month ago, and it still hasn't grown bigger than this size, which lets me know that the sunlight is not getting to it because of the trellis of the tomatoes that are shading out the sun over this raised bed, which is not allowing the sun to reach these cabbage plants that are not growing. So again, you're faced with these tough decisions, but I'm making an executive decision to pull out this tomato plant here that is not really producing. It's not producing as much as it was before, but it's producing, but it's not allowing the sun to reach these cabbage plants. And again, in an ideal world, I had planned for this tomato trellis to shade out this area so that I can grow stuff like carrots under it during the summertime. But again, you know, your plans don't always go the way that you want, you guys. You kind of have to pivot when and make things work that fits your garden. And that's what we're going to do. I also have, it did also, I will say that the trellis did provide shade for this celery that was growing over the summertime and didn't bolt. So that actually served its purpose for that, but it's not serving its purpose right now for the cabbage that is growing down here. So we're going to pull this tomato plant up probably today. So the other thing that I'm going to be also pulling up, which I'm sad about because it's finally taking off and doing well. And literally, this is how I envision this raised bed to be companion planted with some tomatoes that are arched over to provide shade, and then also this African marigold to grow tall to be able to deter the tomato hornworms and pests from this plant, and it's doing exactly what I wanted it to do. And it's just so beautiful. But sometimes you're faced with these hard decisions, you guys. Sometimes in life you have to, for things that are doing well, that you think are doing well, might not might be stunting growth in other areas of your life, and you have to make a decision to choose one that's going to be most beneficial for you. And right now we're going to have to pull up both of them. I'm so sad, but it's got to be done. Oh well. So I still have some tomatoes that are on here. I'm glad I got them before this frost comes, but yeah, tomatoes are green. They can actually ripen off the vine, so you can pull them off and put them on the counter or put them in a brown paper bag and they will ripen. But we are actually going to cook our tomatoes green. We're going to fry them up. And today is Friday, so it was Fish Fry Friday, and we're going to have us some fried green tomatoes with that as well. Last but not least, we have our other raised bed that has some radishes that's growing in here, which are taking off fairly well. Radishes grow really fast, you guys. So I think I planted these from seed. Can't even remember. Maybe a little over a month ago, and this is how they are right now. Expecting them to get a little bigger, so I'm excited about that. I also have some bok choy that almost didn't make it because of the bug pest pressure, but they're finally coming back here as well. I'm trying to remember what this is. I don't know if this is lettuce or arugula, but we're gonna eat it regardless. I did have some lettuce growing here before. It did bolt, as you can see. I pulled them up so to make room for other things, and so we got that. That yeah, I can't even. This must be radish as well. So this might actually be a radish. but we'll see. I moved some of my arugula that was in another raised bed. I think I have a spinach right there, some Swiss chard that I transplanted. It's sad right now, but because um, transplant shock, but it'll bounce back. And some basil that's left over, along with some rosemary. And all these things. Oh yeah, and some dill back there. But all these things doing fairly well. I think this is probably some zinnias that have our volunteer seeds from a zinnia plant that was here, but they probably won't thrive in the wintertime, but it's cool. My strawberry plants in the hanging baskets are doing well. Also, I have left them in there and they will overwinter fairly well and will go dormant so that I will be able to harvest them in the spring and summertime. You can see some flowers still come in there, but they're not going to make it through the wintertime. Or they might surprise me, but again, these are going to overwinter because they're perennial in my zone. So we'll have strawberries next year. So that's pretty much everything that's growing in my garden right now. I will be also planting some garlic bulbs in this upcoming weekend, along with some flowered spring bulbs, like some tulips, some daffodils, crocuses, some hyacinths, so that they can bloom in the springtime because they require a chilling period. And now is a good time to plant garlic because it takes a long time to grow, and almost about like 8, 9 to 10 months, depending on where you live. And now's a good time because it's still a little warm to where you plant them in the ground and they'll form roots, which you want. They won't form roots in the wintertime when the soil is like cold and hard. So now is a good time while the soil is warm and loose. You can plant them and they form roots, and then they might sprout. And once the winter and the freeze comes, they'll like kind of go dormant. And then when the springtime comes, they will start to grow again and continue to grow into the summertime. And then you will also have your garlic that you harvest in the summertime. Um, Garlic actually, they say that the bulbs get larger in the wintertime. I don't know if that's true or not. I have to look that up. They do require nutrients as well. And I'll do a video on how to plant garlic as well. But you guys, this is pretty much my fall garden in October. I am pleased with the growth that's happening. I had to let go of some of my summer vegetables. That's okay. That happens in life. Some things you got to let them go because they're hindering the growth, or are not as productive in your life as other things in your life. So keep that in mind. And until next time, happy gardening.